So next up, podcast listeners, Dominion Voting Systems is suing Rudy Giuliani for defamation. That's right. Good old Dominion, you know, that company that makes those voting systems that happen to be in all of the swing states. What a coincidence. Or at least most of the swing states. They are suing Rudolph Giuliani because they think that he defamed them when he was talking about their voting systems and the integrity of their voting systems. So once again, we have CNN that's reporting about this. Of course, lack of critical thinking and lack of critical questions, not possible. So we have the first clip up from CNN reporting about it, and here it is.
Breaking news. Dominion Voting Systems has filed a $1.3 billion lawsuit against Rudy Giuliani for defamation after he and others spread the false conspiracy theory that the company's machines flip votes from Trump to President Biden. This is a taste of the type of thing that Giuliani was saying. Listen.
Last night, one of the experts that has examined these crooked Dominion machines has absolutely what he believes is conclusive proof that in the last 10%, 15% of the vote counted, the votes were deliberately changed.
So that's, of course, Rudy Giuliani talking about post-campaign, post-election, about how he believes that votes were flipped from one candidate to the other. Well, actually, that did end up happening in Michigan, by the way. There was one county in Michigan. There may have been a second, but there was one county in particular in Michigan where there were votes that, for whatever reason, were flipped from Donald Trump to Joe Biden with the Dominion machines. And we do not know, despite all of the articles that I have read, we do not know for sure at what point that happened. Did it happen at the time when the ballots were fed into the machines? Or did it happen later? Or did it happen when votes were transferred? Was it a software glitch? Was it intentional? Who knows? But that did happen in a single county in Michigan. That we do know. And so nonetheless, Dominion is suing Rudy Giuliani for defamation. And so we have CNN talking to their legal analyst. It's always so funny when CNN brings experts in. It's always dangerous too. So here's the CNN legal analyst, Ellie Honig, discussing the lawsuit. We have that clip, and here it is.
Now, Ellie, $1.3 billion. How strong does this case look to you?
It looks pretty strong to me, John. In a defamation case like this, if you're the plaintiff, if you're Dominion Voting Systems here, you have to prove two things. One, that the statements the defendant here, Rudy Giuliani, made were false. I mean, they should have very little problem proving that. These statements Rudy Giuliani made were not just false, they were wild. The second thing you have to prove is that the defendant, Rudy, either knew they were false or was sort of reckless, meaning he should have known, easily could have known, but said them anyway. Those are the legal requirements. And given the utter falsity, I think obvious falsity of what Rudy Giuliani said, I think Dominion's going to have a real shot to prove its case here. You
know, one thing that's interesting, and the Dominion lawyer points this out, they say that Giuliani never made the Dominion claims in a court of law when he would have been under oath. He only made them in public or testifying when he wasn't under oath. Why does that matter here to the point you were just making?
Yeah, it's a good point by the Dominion lawyers, because it shows that it goes to Rudy's knowledge that these were false, because if he really believed these, he would have said them in a court of law. The risk to doing that to a lawyer is you can get sanctioned by the court. You can get fined. You can get thrown out of the bar even. So I think that's a good indicator. Another interesting detail here, Rudy didn't just say something once. Sometimes in these defamation suits, it's one statement that a person said. You can argue, well, maybe they misspoke a little bit or were misunderstood. Rudy made the statements that Dominion complains about here dozens of times, up to 50 times.
So basically, Ellie Honig, CNN's legal analyst, wants to cancel Rudolph Giuliani, but never. Okay, so fine. His job is to talk about the legal aspects of this case where Dominion is suing Rudy Giuliani for defamation. Understandable and fair enough, okay? But what about the fact that the American people have never really had an opportunity on mainstream media news, and I mean all of the news outlets, perhaps, and here's what I'm talking about. What if all of the mainstream media outlets, CNN, CBS, NBC, MSNBC, Fox, OAN, One America, every single news outlet, and C-SPAN, what if they all had a 2-hour-long film of what it looks like to vote in each individual swing state. Some sort of informational kind of session where it was 2 hours long. Probably that should actually occur at the United States Senate, where you investigate things and you have an opportunity. But what if in Wisconsin we were told, hey, here's how people vote in Wisconsin if you're voting in person. And then you show the fact the person fills out the ballot and they scan the ballot in. What happens on the back end in the Dominion machine, right? What happens when the vote is scanned into the machine on the back end? Are there USB drives that can be added or subtracted? Look, I don't know, right? I'm a fairly, I think, technical person, understand technology fairly well, and I still to this day haven't read a single article in the mainstream media that has explained to me how an actual Dominion machine works. But that wouldn't be even enough for me. I would want to actually see it in action to see how it works, and to have someone show us and step us through this, like one step at a time. And then here are the weaknesses of the machines. Here are potential weaknesses where potential things could happen or things could go wrong. If we had that, do you podcast listeners think for 1 minute that the American people wouldn't feel at least some sense of relief, or maybe increased skepticism, or at least there'd be a desire to fix the problems that people potentially see, where we can come together as a nation, as Republicans and Democrats, but instead as Americans, and say we need to do better than this, because there are too many possibilities of things that can go wrong when you vote in person with a Dominion machine. But we can't ever know that unless we have that mainstream media cooperation with, a couple of hours of walking us through about these machines with experts to show us how they work. And so the thing is, the idea that Dominion would sue Rudy Giuliani for defamation, fine, they can sue anybody they want, but that's not going to change the fact that 74 million Americans fundamentally don't trust what happened in many of those swing states. And the way you get that trust back and that transparency back is to talk and walk people through it step by step with an actual machine. And also show people how different states, specifically the swing states, do things differently. So my understanding is there are some states, when you scan your ballot in, what they give you is like a receipt, like, a little paper receipt that you would get perhaps from, a gas station, and say, oh, okay, well, you voted and here's how you voted, but people don't actually keep those. Is it possible that since there's no record other than what the state election board has as the record is not, there's no check. So here's what I'm saying. There's no check and balance. And I think what people want to see is more of a check and balance system and more integrity in elections. And I think there's nothing wrong with asking that question. But CNN, of course, is not the least bit interested. So we have CNN's legal analysts again. We have another clip from Eli Honig. He's their legal analyst. And you have to listen very carefully at the end of this clip about how the CNN reporter just completely disbands all critical thinking. Listen really closely. First, you'll hear the legal analyst, and then you'll end up with the actual reporter from CNN. We have that clip, and here it is.
So the vast majority of these cases do settle because it's costly and risky for both parties to go to trial. I'm not sure Dominion's going to be in much of a settling mood here, given they've taken a very strong litigation stance, given the serious damage that's been done to the reputation. I'm not sure Rudy Giuliani is going to be able to settle for the amount of money that I think Dominion's going to require. So this one, I put this in the small group of the small category of cases that I think have a real shot to end up at trial.
They have every reason to push this until the very end here. Rudy Giuliani could be in some serious financial trouble this morning.
So you hear CNN, like they're putting their foot on the scale. The reporter is at CNN. He's putting his foot on the scale of, Dominion has every reason to make sure that they take everything from Rudolph Giuliani, a man that is an American hero from 9/11, right? From 9/11. But CNN doesn't care about that, because Rudolph Giuliani supports Donald Trump, a fellow New Yorker. CNN wants to make sure that he is just ruined. He's ruined financially, he's ruined personally, and maybe even who knows what, right? That I'm sure they would love to see him locked up. And you hear that in their own words, these reporters, without even ever along the way asking any of the questions that I just asked prior to you hearing that clip, which is, hey, why don't we actually have a 2-hour-long program at CNN to walk people through how these machines work to really see if there are holes or problems with the system? Never. You'll never see that with CNN, which is why we have a nation so divided about this election, and it's not going to change until these news outlets try to fix this and actually do critical thinking reporting. And that is Dominion sues Rudy Giuliani for defamation.